Hello, everybody. What is Donald Trump's electoral floor on election night? I have a map here I'm going to fill out the states that he is pretty much guaranteed to win, and then take a look at some polling data for the swing states and see what he has to do after that to win the election. So let's get started here. I'm going to fill out this Montana, Idaho. That gives him 8 electoral votes right there. Wyoming, he won that state by like 90%. So, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but the margin was pretty big. Utah, North Dakota, South Dakota. Nebraska's a little bit different. Let's see, Nebraska looked like this in 2020. Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. I don't know why they try to paint this as some kind of battleground state because it's not. So right now we're up to 80 electoral votes. Iowa, he's been pretty solid in Iowa. He won it by a sizable margin in 2020, about 8%, I believe. That to me, it seems more like a Republican state at this point. Montana, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Florida. Florida looks more and more like a red state. It was a purple state for a long time, but since 2016, when Trump won it against Hillary Clinton, then DeSantis won, and then Trump won it again in 2020 by 3%, which is a landslide when you're talking about the state of Florida. And then DeSantis won by 20 in 2022. Let's see, Indiana, Ohio, and let's take a look. Tennessee. Let's see if I'm missing anything here. Maine, he won 2020, one electoral vote out of Maine. Let's check it out there. And then I want to say North Carolina. I want to say North Carolina. It's the polling data is really strong for him right now. He's ahead about by 7%. He won in 2016, 2020. It's not a lock. I mean, nothing is a lock, but because anything can happen. But North Carolina is trending Republican, in my opinion, just based on the polling data. If we take a look at where it is right now, North Carolina, Trump on the RCP average is ahead by almost 7%. And a lot of people think it's a it's pretty much out of Democrats' hands right now, that they can't win the state. Of course, they're confident they want to go and campaign there, but I think North Carolina is a Trump state. He's been campaigning a lot there. The polling data looks really good. It's really strong. And look, polls aren't everything, but it's a snapshot of where people are at the moment. So I will say, I think he will win North Carolina. Yeah, I think he won in 2020 by about 1%. And 2016, I believe, was maybe 3%. But I think we could see a 2 to 3% victory for Trump in North Carolina. And that would put him at 219 electoral votes. This is not West Virginia. That's a guaranteed. Yeah, you can. Biden's not going to win West Virginia. All right, and then we have Alaska. Trump won that in 2016, 2020. It's generally a Republican victory right there. And that puts him at 226. Kentucky. Oops, sorry. All right, so 234 is looks like the floor for Donald Trump. Then Maine, we have Maine's district. Sorry, this one right here. Okay, so 235. If we look at what happened in the states he won in 2020, which was solidly red. I'm sorry. This is it right here. He's at about 234, 235. And you have Texas increasing electoral votes, Florida increasing electoral votes because of the congressional seats with the population change. Ohio went down from 18 to 17, so he'll receive 17 electoral votes from there. So this looks pretty good. If you go in with 235, you just have to worry about winning a few swing states. Now, that's where it gets tricky because I don't want to get into that right now with what happened in Georgia in 2020 and Arizona and with the drop boxes and all that. I don't want to get into that right now. But if we look at some polling data, he is actually pretty strong in Pennsylvania. He's not doing too bad. Right now, he's ahead by 3 points. If you take a look at Georgia, he's polling at 5% ahead right now. So if he takes Georgia, that'll be a huge victory. Now, they did change the election laws in Florida, not Florida, Georgia, I'm sorry, in 2021 with the voter integrity law there. And that will be a benefit to us. It'll make things a little bit more easier to vote, harder to whatever. So let's say he takes Georgia. He's at 251. And this is where it gets tricky because Wisconsin is in play. Wisconsin's always in play. But is he going to win that? I don't know. He's ahead 2% right now. But look what happened. Okay, I'll get into it a little bit. Wisconsin Supreme Court changes course will allow expanded use of drop boxes this fall. The conservative Supreme Court in 2022, July 2022, limited the use of drop boxes, ruling that they could only be placed in local election clerks' offices, and no one other than the voter could return a mail-in ballot. That's when conservatives controlled the court. Now, in 2023, this is why elections have consequences. The liberal judge flipped it. It was flipped into the control of liberals. And now look what happened. You have this expanded use of drop boxes. I mean, this is not a... Why would they do that? Anyway, but I digress. But there is some good news out of Michigan. Sorry. Republicans held Michigan mail-in ballot ruling as victory, incompatible with the Constitution. Democrat Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson was wrong to advise election officials to presume the validity of absentee ballot signatures, a Michigan judge has ruled. So she can't just presume that everything is okay, that just everything is good without proper verification with mail-in absentee ballots, which I think is big. I mean, Michigan is a huge state to win. We looked at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's anybody's game, but Michigan, Trump has been campaigning there in Detroit, which I think is very smart. And right now he's in the lead with 2% polling average. If you go back to 2020, this time in 2020, Biden was ahead 7.5%. And you go back to 2016, Hillary Clinton was ahead by 8%. So, I mean, like I said, these are tough. This is going to be extremely tough to win those states. And in Pennsylvania, he did a rally in Philadelphia. He's going back to Philly later this month. I think, been there a total of 5 times this election season. So Pennsylvania is going to be a big one. Let's take a look in Nevada. Biden won that state in 2020. But right now, Trump is ahead by 5%. I mean... there are a lot of things that could happen in this election. He's even doing well in Virginia. The new poll came out. He's leading by about 2 points in Virginia. So let's take a look at post-debate polls. Wisconsin, 6%. Pennsylvania, he's up by 5%. Michigan, 3%. Arizona, he's up 7%. Nevada, he's up 7%. Texas, 10 points. He'll win Texas. Ohio, 10 points. Montana, 20 points. Montana is a foregone conclusion. We don't have to worry about that. But there are a lot of scenarios there are a lot of ways this can play out in 2024. Minnesota's even in play. The margins actually have gotten a lot closer. Let's check it out. Minnesota general election, it's only down to 3 points. And that state was actually really close in 2016. In 2020, Biden won by about 7%, but the margins have gotten closer this time around. Look, like I said, a lot of things can happen. Um, I will say that he has a better chance, in my opinion, to win in a place like Pennsylvania than he does Michigan. Now, what if he loses Pennsylvania but flips Virginia and he takes Arizona? Um, yeah, then he's in good shape. But like I said, this can play out in a lot of different ways. But if you go in like this, if he wins all these states right here on election night, these all go to him the way I see it, then he's at 251. He needs 270 to win. So if he wins Pennsylvania and the map is like this, then it's game over. So let's check out what happens if he um, loses Arizona but flips Nevada. There you go, 257. Loses Wisconsin, wins Michigan, and then depending on how these other states play, I mean, obviously fill out these states for Biden. He's going to win Oregon, Washington, California, Colorado, New Mexico. But at a minimum, if he wins these states right here, then he's at 272. Look, a lot can happen. It's going to be, sadly, it might be a close race in these important states. But if you just look at the map going into election night, and he wins the states that I said, which he's likely to win, then he goes in with 235. So I don't know. I mean, it's anybody's game, and he's going to have to run up the score in the rural areas in these swing states. He's going to have to increase his percentages, close the gap just a little bit in these big cities. If he goes to Philadelphia and campaigns, and he goes to Detroit, and he can increase the black vote by 5% in each of the states, then you can say goodbye. I mean, he's going to win if he increases the black vote by a few percentage points in these swing states. If he goes campaigns in Philadelphia, continues to campaign in Detroit, then he has a pretty good shot. I think he needs to go to Minnesota. He needs to campaign there a little bit more. Virginia, he did a rally there recently. And if he wins Virginia, you're at 285. And he loses Michigan. There you go, is at 270. A lot of ways this can play out. Pennsylvania, he wins that, 289. Wins Pennsylvania, wins Michigan, loses Virginia. I mean, 291. So I think he needs to really focus on Pennsylvania, Virginia, Wisconsin, of course, Georgia. I mean, all these places where the election is going to be close, he has to focus on, and which is why he's making a play for a lot of demographics. He's going after the black vote. He's going after the Hispanic vote. Hispanics, I see him doing pretty well, and he received about 36% or so, somewhere in that range, 36% of the Hispanic vote back in 2020, and I think he could get up to 45% this time around. The black vote, if he can increase that to 15, 16%, then he's in good shape. But this is just my analysis based on the states that he is almost guaranteed to win. Like I said, he's only 35 electoral votes away from 270. But it's going to take everybody to get out there and vote. That's the thing. You have to have turnout in these swing states. Yeah, he could win Minnesota. He could flip Minnesota. He could win Arizona. He could lose Michigan. Yeah, it's anybody's game. But I mean, this should be a Reagan-style landslide. It should be because of what we're seeing across the country. With the border, with sky-high inflation, foreign affairs, got Biden's a disaster. And will Biden even be the nominee? It's most likely it'll be Harris if they do push Biden out. I mean, but then that makes it, in my opinion, easier to win the election because Harris is nobody really likes Harris. He's atrocious. The polling is in Donald Trump's favor right now with Kamala Harris. I've seen two different polls. One he's up by 7 points. Another one I believe he's up by 11 points. I don't know if it's that much, but right now he's in the driver's seat when it comes to uh, fundraising, campaigning, and the polling. So he is doing very well this time around compared to 2020. His campaign wasn't it was okay in 2020. It was mostly big style rallies, and now he's doing more. He's still doing the big rallies, but this time I think he's taking a better approach at targeting certain demographics and going to these mom and pop shops, going to bodegas, places like that, going to small businesses, doing small intimate rallies. I think that's very smart. So this is just my opinion. This is my analysis based on what we've seen and we saw in 2020 and previous 2016 with states that he were pretty much filled out for him, with pretty much a lock. So we'll see what happens. November 5th is the election. Vote early if you can. Just get out there and vote. That's all I have to say. But all right, guys, we're going to leave the video right there. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. See you next time. Thank you. Take care.